So this is actually my third appearance here. Third time's a charm, question mark, right? First time I was here, it was like literally the first event I ever did. I quit my job, which I worked for myself. I was my only employee. So I quit working for me and hired myself as an independent artist and brought all my work. I met Drew on a flight, and I talked to him a whole bunch, and I don't think he wanted to talk to me, but he did, which is cool. And he was like, I'm doing this thing called ValioCon, and it was like 2 blocks from my house. So I thought, there was no way of getting out of it. And he said, bring your artwork, and people will look at it. I said, OK. So I did. And I left it out in the sun all day, and all of it was ruined by the end of the day. So that was a lesson learned. Cheap materials don't take you very far. And then 2 years ago was the second time I was here, and I was actually here to talk, and I just finished a big project, and I was getting ready to start another one. And as I was 3 minutes from getting on stage, my wife called frantic, and she wanted to let me know that they were towing my truck. They were towing my truck because my plates were expired. My plates were expired because it failed emissions, and it failed emissions because it was a piece of shit. So we're already ahead because now this is what I drive. I actually took the train here and got here really early. But really, I want to talk about a couple things because I've done weird stuff. I've been on a really weird path the last 5 years, just working for myself. Had kind of 3 big chapters, and when I reflected on it, which I don't speak anywhere, with the exception of ValioCon. And when I looked back on it, the kind of common thread that emerged was this kind of crossroads of, like, we're asking those questions, like, hey, what if I did quit my job to pursue a career as an artist, or what if I asked for this promotion, or what if I asked for, whatever it was, where that meets up with someone who's willing to say why not, whether it's yourself going, yeah, why not, I'll give it a try, or if you're asking someone for something, having them just, for whatever reason, people that owe you nothing, getting them to say, yeah, let's go for it. So that's kind of what I'm going to run through real quick and talk about the highlight reel, just like churn through the last 5 years, and then what really happened and why I think I was fortunate in that way. Okay. So I basically make a lot of art with words. It says, it's not what you look at, it's what you see. I also am a fan of tutorials, entirely self-taught, and really just through, there's a tutorial online, which we'll get to in a couple slides, and make a lot of stuff with words. I find a lot of quotes that are motivating. Here's another one. To play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable. So I found early on, and actually the first ValioCon, I was writing stuff with words, but it was really like, I didn't know that people cared what was in them, what the words actually said. So I was taking stuff out of commercials, like, like Arby's new sandwich, and then people would ask what they said, and I was like, oh, like, there should be some meaning here. Which in hindsight, it sounds so obvious, but it wasn't. It was a niche I fell into and started having fun with it. This is Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. And Louisa, you mentioned the van. And just because I was anyone around me saw I was still working on this thing like 3 minutes ago. So this is a good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving. So but I'm going to back up to the very beginning, back to 2000. Oh, get it together, man. Back to 2011, and really it was the first kind of what if, and it was, what if I made one piece a day? And in 2012, I had this like really stupid idea, like I'll make one piece of art every single day, and I'll sell it on the internet, and people will buy them, and it'll go well, like, right? So why not? So that's what I did. I got some friends together, and they helped me build a website, because really the only web stuff I knew was kind of WYSIWYG, like I could put together a mean or modify a template, but that's about it. And we put together this calendar where every single day of the year had a different art piece on it. And I actually hadn't made art in like 10 years. Like, best accolade I ever received was an honorable mention from the Douglas County District Art Show in Colorado. So if any of you guys were there, probably saw that. that piece. It wasn't even third. But it was a good time, and I put all this together and released the entire calendar all at once, and I priced it in kind of a weird way, because I knew the early pieces were going to suck, and then later in the year they'd hopefully improve. The piece I sold on January 1st, I sold for $1, and then the piece on the second was $2, and the piece on the third was $3, and if you add all that up, 1 to 366, because it was a leap year, it was like 70 grand, and I thought, well, shit, if I can do that, that's like way more money than any job I made out of college, so yeah, let's go for it. Launched the site, and on the first day, we sold a third of them, and that was pretty cool. That's still, even though like that victory is a lot smaller than a lot of the ones that came later, that one still felt the sweetest because it was such a ridiculous idea, and it just happened to work. So chugged along all year, ended up almost selling all of them, took a couple months off to kind of figure out what the next step was, and because you can't really scale up from one piece a day and not go insane. So I decided, okay, I'll scale it back. I'll do one a week. I said, what if I do one a week? But I was like, I'll do it for 100 weeks because if I don't give myself a deadline, I won't do them. I won't complete them. But really, it would force me to create work, and it would also give me like the next 2 years until I had to make another decision about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. So put that site together and launched it in April of 2013, and I think this was right around the time I spoke. We had just launched this site right around the time I spoke at ValleyCon last, and that was the goal. And it's kind of similar pricing model. They're $99 prints, and I figured, okay, well, we'll start them at $5. We'll call the site 5 Spot Derby, and every sale that happens will increase the price. So the first one's $5, the next one's 10. And so on and so forth, and then it would kind of replace every week. And then rain or shine, whether I had a design or not, and I almost never did, much like I was just working on this presentation, it was usually the last minute that I was putting stuff in. The slide is wildly out of place, but I really wanted to put it in there. This is the tutorial that I learned, I swear, everything I know. It's Tasty Toots, and the 6-year-old in me loves that title. But this guy does really good work, and he's got a really soothing voice. And I'm telling you, if you're looking to get into Illustrator work at all, and his other tutorials are probably great, but he's got really good Illustrator tutorials. And I knew I wanted to do prints because the first year it was everything by hand, and that was ridiculous. And I was kind of over that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to back it up. I'm going to do prints, like limited edition prints, and that was the plan for this year or two, or the second iteration of the project. That's where I ran into this guy. His name is Tim Butler. If any of you are local and are looking for design work, this guy is like one of the best people in the world to work with. He's like a total like curmudgeon, you know what I mean? Like he's an asshole, but he has a heart of gold, and he's a perfectionist, and he loves what he does, and he works with these machines that span anywhere from the 1890s to I think the earliest one is 1956. But he creates this amazing work. He was able to take work that I built on Illustrator, and he was able to bring it to life in a way that felt authentic, and it felt less digital. It was kind of a weird hack because everyone was buying these prints, but really I was just a digital artist, and usually digital artists don't get a lot. It's hard to sell digital prints of your work. So this was kind of a nice little workaround, and ended up doing 119 of these releases. So made it past that goal of 100, which was great. For a time, my wife was my packing and shipping department, and every week she would pack up the orders. We would send them out to fans all over the world, which was pretty cool. One of the goals was I wanted to get like a print into all 50 states. Like I thought it'd be cool to have a fan in all 50 states. And at the very end of the project, which I kind of put the kibosh on it last October to focus on the new one, which I'll get to in a second, but moved over 5,000 prints to fans across all 50 states and like 25 countries. I think I'm up to like 27 countries, and that felt pretty good. All along the way, I worked on I basically gave those prints away. I mean, you saw that $5 price. It's like stupid. But I kind of had this drug dealer mentality where I thought, okay, like I'll give it away and they'll like the work and then they'll come to me for other projects. And they did. I was able to hook up with the rad people at Bucket Feet to rock a shoe design, JLab audio, to rock a pair of headphones. Jason Mraz asked me to do a couple tour posters. You guys know a guy from I Wear Your Shirt, Jason Zook, or Jason Sadler? He asked me to draw, it was like 3,000 words on his car. Chris Poindexter asked me to do a book. This piece is interesting. I'm going to show you two pieces right now. This is the most expensive piece I've ever done, and it was deep into like 5-figure territory. It was ridiculous. And when they handed me the payment, they said, "You're not charging enough." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." That felt good, but also like, fuck you, you can pay me more. Like, but that's fine. And there's a video of this online. Didn't have time to throw that together, but there is a video online where you can see this kind of made, because unlike Allison, I do not have 3D chops or animation chops in any way, and the only way I could do it was record it and then kind of time-lapse it and sync it with the words. So I will gladly send a link to that to anyone that wants to see it. But really, so that was a piece, and then a piece that took the same amount of time, but that I did last week, was this one. And that last one was a corporate piece. This was this guy's girlfriend really loved her dog. And I know you can't make it out from the screen, but it's the words, "Will you marry me?" over and over and over and over again. And that's what he used to propose to his girlfriend. And I did this piece for like peanuts. But holy cow, I got to play a role in their life. She said yes, which is great. And I thought that was really special. So having both those pieces, I wish I could say these are the only kind of pieces I want to do, but those last ones, the big ones do pay the bills, and that makes you, after this many years, I am able to get kind of picky about things, which is nice. Alongside all that, I opened up a gallery in Carlsbad and ran it, and really didn't like it. Ran it for almost 2 years, and what I found is if you have a gallery, the kind of people that come in are the kind of people that go to galleries, and like in the middle of the day. And I really didn't like that. But what I did like was I had a ton of artists come in, and they would show me their work. And as some of you might know, when you see another artist's work, and you've just kind of been fumbling along, faking it your whole life, you're kind of like, "Oh shit, your stuff's really good." So they would show me their work, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's really good." And they say, "Yeah, how do I sell it?" And that was always weird to me, because that was the part that kind of came easy, like building that system, whatever way to sell the pieces, that was the part that came naturally to me. So I had this kind of aha moment. I was like, I'm a marketing major. I'll just write it all down in a book, and they will read it, and then they will do those things, and then they will know, and they will sell their work and be happy. And I actually had 2 book offers, which was pretty cool. Wrote this whole thing out, and kind of bled it out to a couple artists. Like, just, I wanted to get case studies, and just really have some proof of concept for this. And the first dozen artists I gave it to, every single one of them came back to me. It was truly like end-to-end, step-by-step guide of everything I did. And they all came back to me and handed the book back and said, "I'm not going to do all that shit. No. I just want to make the art and have someone else do everything else." And I said, "Oh, that's weird." Because I kind of missed the mark with writing the book. So I decided not to release the book. But I still have it, so if anyone wants it. But what I did end up doing was saying, okay, well, I've figured out a way to sell my own work online, and that worked for me. But after 500 pieces in 3 years, I was kind of over it. I was kind of done. I was actually really burnt out on making art, and so I thought, hey, what if I brought all this in for other people? So we rebuilt the site from the ground up. We opened it up to artists from around the world. I hooked up with this guy, Jack McCain, who, if you've ever heard of Modern Hieroglyphics magazine, he started and ran for a while. And just by asking him, he actually announced that he was going to release his print shop with all his artist work, and told him about what I was going to do. And we ended up joining forces. And we launched Derby in November of last year. And this is a little teaser of a piece by Alec Huxley, teaser of a piece by Mike Fudge, and my buddy Karin Griffiths out of London. We've managed to talk to a lot of artists and get a bunch of people on board. We have like a couple hundred artists are signed on to release exclusive work with us. And the way that site works is very similar to the old ones, except I don't have to do the artwork anymore. It's pretty fun. So what we do is every Tuesday we release a new piece, and same sliding price model. It starts cheap and it gets more expensive. But we started with just a print shop here in the States, and just like 3 days ago, we opened our second print and distribution shop over in London, and we're working on one in Australia right now. So I went from creating all the time to building systems and living in Quip. If any of you guys know or use Quip, I love it. Spend my whole day in there. So my screen these days looks a lot more like this than playing around in Illustrator like I used to. But really what it all kind of boiled down to, when I stopped and looked back at everything that had happened, that's the highlight reel, right? Like, those are all the good things that have happened in a really concise version, and what you don't hear is like the highs and lows of the roller coaster, and it's a complete roller coaster all the time. Going back to the very beginning, the only reason this Piece a Day project was possible was because I sent one email to a company called Art Alternatives, and they sold all kinds of art supplies. And I don't even know how I found them, but I emailed them and I said, hey, I'm going to do a project where I do a piece a day. Can I have 400 canvases? It was like 15 grand if I would have bought it off their site. And 2 days later, I got an email from them, and they were like, yeah, where do we send them? And on one hand, I was like, cool. On the other hand, I was like, shit, now I actually have to do this thing. But really, it was those moments that made me realize you don't get what you don't ask for. And every project that I've done like that has had those elements where, the first project, I didn't have any art supplies, and they actually re-upped for the second, which was cool. The second project, I couldn't afford the site, but I worked out a deal with the developers where they got a percentage of sales, and that was kind of cool. And to me, it really boils down to, it's never a lack of resources, like ever. It's usually a lack of resourcefulness, and I think that one came from Tony Robbins. But it's so applicable, and I find myself referring to it a lot. And the same kind of thing goes for my team. My team all approach me the same way, with the same kind of philosophy, where they said, hey, what if I came to work for you? And this third project, I got to tell you, has gone from just me making decisions and emailing people and saying, hey, could I just have this thing? And some of them said yes, some of them said no. But now I have a group of 9 people that I work with on a regular basis, and a lot of them all joined the project just for the same reason, where they said, hey, what if I joined you? Or hey, what if we did this together? And it would take one of us to say, sure, why not? So what I would look for, and the why not, I pull from, there's a great Kevin Smith video where he talks about why not. But really, to me, the most important thing, like when I look back on the last 5 years, I don't think there's anything I could teach you from a design perspective. I think there's a lot of talented people in this room. And I do still feel like a hack at times myself. But it's, find yourself looking for those moments, like sending those emails, the really obscure ones, like whatever, like follow whatever whimsy you can, and chase whatever idea you can, and don't be afraid to go after those what ifs. And whether you find yourself on the beginning of that, where you're asking what if, or if someone's coming to you saying, hey, what if we did this together, or what if you help me with this, don't be afraid to say why not. So that's all I've got to say on that subject. I'm me, this is my stuff, and happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Anybody have questions for Jason?
How do you go from, you paint it on this canvas, and then how do you get it online in a format that you can sell?
Sure. So in the early days, it was really unsexy. I'd take a photo of it, and then I'd either trace the lines or live trace them, or that was basically it. It was really gritty early on, until I went through those tutorials and was like, oh, I'll just build it in here. Like, there's no need to do, on ink, you can fuck up. You can do all kinds, you get one wrong line and the original's jacked. But the flexibility with working on purely digital, I think I've been purely digital since 2013. So it was very early days. It was just that first project that it was all kind of all just ink on canvas stuff. So it was never a good process. I was never good at that piece. So live trace was my friend in the early days. Yes.
How did you find the first customers?
Say that again?
How did you find the first
I get asked that all the time. So, and I'm super transparent about my customer base because I started with like none. And the way I built up with the first project, I promoted it for 4 months. Your inbox, or your email list is sacred. And I'm not talking about renting a list. I'm not talking about anything like that. For 4 months before I launched that project, I just had a simple one-page splash page. It was like, hey, I'm doing a thing. Give me your email, and I'll come back, and I'll let you know when to come back. And I won't use your email for any other purpose. And I think when we launched the first time, it was like 400. But even today, it's only 1,500 or so deep. But I'm very authentic with what I'm going to do. I don't overshare. I don't oversend. And I've maintained. I don't know if any of you guys are in this space, but maintained over the last 3-4 years, 50 or 60% open rate and like a 45% click-through rate. So I have a really small but really engaged audience, and truly, without that email audience, there's no way I could have done what I've done.
Anybody?
Say that again? Give me your email, and I'll give it to you. Find me at lunch, and I'll give you. It's a really rough draft in Evernote right now. That's about what I have left, and I will certainly share it. And,
I was kind of curious how you go about. I'm right over
okay,
here.
yeah, I'm like, where are you?
Yeah. I was kind of curious how you go about acquiring artists to put their stuff up there. I had a friend who actually, she was like, I got this really weird email from this thing called Derby.
Yeah, that's
I want to
me.
put my stuff up there. She's like, can you check this out? And I was like, all right, it looks legit. I don't know, give it a try, see what happens.
Yeah.
And it worked out great for her, but I'm just wondering, I don't even know how you found her, or you just rummaging around on Instagram and stuff.
I'm not kidding. I wake up, I'm on my computer, Luisa, your mindful meditation and getting away from stuff. Oh my God. And Drew turning off your phone. What the fuck? I'm sorry. How do you guys, I wake up and my phone's in my hand before I open my eyes, and really that's it. But really, the way we found artists was a huge credit to my partner here, Jack McCain. He, through his magazine, the dude's like a digital nomad. He toured the world and ended up meeting with a lot of artists. So he had a pretty fat Rolodex to start, but we exhausted it pretty quick. We probably sent, 1,500, 2,000 emails to people that we felt were a really good fit. The really hard part was people we reached out to and asked to be a part of the project, and then they submitted a design, and then we said no. That was a weird little learning curve. So it's been an interesting place of saying, hey, do you want to be a part of this? And keeping those people happy enough, because we turn down a lot more than we end up working with. So keeping those people happy enough so that word doesn't spread that we let some people down, you know what I mean? And just being genuinely transparent and authentic about our whole process. So that's how we found people. It's really just a shit ton of time online digging through every avenue we can find. So.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys.